Hey, what's happening? This is Isai Rodriguez, host of the Gasper Nation podcast, where I cater to the professional working man, 40 and above, who's looking to make positive changes to his health, lose weight, and become stronger overall through simple lifestyle changes. I'm here to share inspiration, tips, and proven lessons that I've personally learned and lived through in my 40 plus years on this here beautiful blue planet. So today we'll start the discussion off by talking about how to shake off your pandemic weight in our first segment. And then we'll move on to our second segment and talk about do these 9 exercises at home for better range of motion. And before we get into that, if you'd like to join the conversation, then get on over to podcast.gastonation.com/VIP to get on the VIP Insiders community where I share more entertaining, behind-the-scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger each and every day. That's podcast.gastonation.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.gastonation.com/VIP. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now. And leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place your vote truly matters. Now, let's move into our first segment with Healthy Conversations. So in this week's installment of Healthy Conversations, we're talking about how to shake off your pandemic weight. So if you've put on weight during the pandemic, first of all, don't worry because you're not alone. You know, we've all put on a pound or 2 or 10. And as the COVID-19 vaccine starts rolling out, like this whole rollout of the vaccine throughout the nation, as this continues, the weather turns warmer and we start seeing like, you know, the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. It's also a time to refocus and renew our attention on setting new health goals. Now, many of us have found that what we've been eating while all this, you know, lockdown stuff was happening, we found that it's gone a little sideways, if you will. You know, and even your workout routines may have taken a nice little hit, you know, throughout the pandemic. Not only that, but there was an emotional piece of it, like an emotional aspect, you know, like the stress of the pandemic taking a toll on us and basically hitting us from all different angles and directions. So as we slowly start coming out of the pandemic, how can we set up and establish new, healthier routines? That's the question. You know, like what's the best way to lose the weight that we've gained during the pandemic, you know, and where should our focus be as we start, you know, because sometimes just focusing in on like a particular thing to do or a routine or, you know, just what time of the day are you going to go to the gym? What day are you going to go there? Are you going to go a couple of days a week? Are you going to go once a week? Are you going to go every day? Are you going to go twice? Like, where do you start? You know? So anyway, first of all, like I just said, a lot of us are in the same boat. You know what I mean? This has been a pretty wide scale issue since the pandemic started, you know? There's a lot of people thinking, oh, you know, everyone else is training for a marathon and look what happened to me. You know, like there's this preconceived notion that others are like training and getting, you know, they have their shit together except for them, you know? But the reality is that's not the case at all. You know, we've all been facing similar struggles, you know, and the pandemic has forced a lot of good lifestyle changes and also a lot of bad ones too. Like people were eating much less fast food. That's a good thing, you know, because you weren't able to drive to McDonald's or, you know, or swing by, I don't know, Chipotle or Chick-fil-A. I don't know. Some of you probably were, you know, I don't know. But they've also been doing more cooking at home and eating with their families more. more. That's also a great thing. And when you cook at home, you tend to have healthier eating habits and you just make better eating choices overall. That also applies to alcohol. If you think about it, during the pandemic, people have been less likely to go out to bars or go to restaurants and drink simply because, you couldn't. You know what I mean? Like how could you go and enjoy a martini, for happy hour? Alcohol also lowers inhibitions, and so that can also lead to you intaking more food, especially at a restaurant where their primary job function is to serve you. That's why restaurants love it. Like, they love it when you order drinks, because at that point they know that you're more likely to order an appetizer or dessert, or even just indulge in an additional drink. They make tons of money on those drinks. Those are just the facts. And now here's the flip side of things, and it's this, the pandemic has brought on some good routines, just some, not too many. It's kind of forced us to not eat out, you know what I mean? But with so many of us stuck at home, there's been more snacking. And we're not talking about, the healthy kind of snacking like nuts and berries and fruit and vegetables, things like that. That's not what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is the bad snacking, quote unquote. So like the whole eating or consuming of sweets and even sugar sweetened drinks like Coke and Sprite, like all of that went through the roof almost. I mean, when you're stuck at home, you're in the place where all the food is, period. That makes it really easy for you to snack and to have a random Oreo cookie, and that applies to alcohol also. Even though we couldn't go out to a bar to have a happy hour martini, people were still consuming more alcoholic drinks while at home. But it is now time that we get back on track now. So whether it's because you're fully vaccinated and ready to return to, a relative feeling of normalcy, or because you're simply ready to go back into get into the healthy swing of things. Like, there are some key approaches that you can take that'll help guarantee, greater success, and like those new habits we just talked about, you can start with those first, be honest and open with yourself, what bad habits you've picked up since the pandemic started. You know yourself best. Confront them, size them up, and stop doing what you shouldn't be doing. I mean, chances are you've established some of the good habits I mentioned earlier. Those are okay. You can keep those habits and try to get away from the bad ones, One way to help yourself is to leave trigger foods behind. And this is what I mean by trigger foods. If cookies or chips are your trigger foods, if that's your weakness, don't buy those on your next grocery run. For me, there's so many things that I can consider trigger foods. Everything from, Pop-Tarts to sausages to Swedish fish, Sour Patch Kids, Oreos, all that stuff. It's terrible, but that's my weakness. Those are my triggers. But what I try to do, I try not to buy them when I'm at the supermarket, like when I'm running up and down the aisles looking for, milk and bread and eggs and all that stuff. Sometimes I see the cookie aisle, I don't even go in there. Sometimes it hurts me because I have to go in for crackers or something, and even that, you have to pass through all the cookies, and I'm just looking at them at the corner of my eye, and that's temptation, man, I'll tell you. But it's hard, but I just don't do it. I don't give in. That's especially important if you're still working from home, even if you're just part-time, because some people are able to change their habits and pivot to a healthier lifestyle at the drop of a hat, and some aren't. And I know that, I'm the type that I can easily, just drop my bad habit and mentally focus myself somewhere else. But I know that it's not easy for everyone. Not everyone can make that transition at the same pace. But here's the key. In the long run, consistency is way more important than speed. whether it's a New Year's resolution or, coming out of a global pandemic. We all know that people are more likely to be successful with these types of changes if they set and make small, successful goals. So if you set a really huge goal, a lofty goal, like going to the gym every single day, giving up alcohol, and ditching fast food all at the same time, you will inevitably fail, period. You're literally setting yourself up for failure. And it's easy to fall into this all or nothing mentality, but it rarely works for you or anyone for that matter. Instead, start with goals that are much easier to reach. When they're simple steps, like simple goals, they'll act as building blocks for your future success. You know what I mean? So as you achieve these simpler, smaller goals, you're gonna be boosted. That small win is going to boost you up, and it's going to keep you going. It's going to build that momentum. It's going to help you move forward with your goals. So again, instead of trying to change everything, try one thing. Like cutting back on fast food until you've given it up like it was no sweat, Once you've got that down pat, you can easily add on to that. Think of it like running a marathon. You don't just go from not exercising at all to running marathons. You don't go from zero exercising, from binge watching Netflix to running the Boston Marathon. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to build up slowly and then, add on just a little bit more each day. The same small goals thing goes for your diet too. Like saying you're going to eat a good diet is way too vague. There's no real way to mark that as an achievable goal. Rather than do that, why don't what you do is you make a small, specific change that alters your habit, that changes your habit for the better. These smaller specific changes, they can provide those key building blocks for your overall change, like I was saying. So whether it's packing your lunch for work instead of, getting takeout, or switching your afternoon pastry snack for fruits and veggies, these are all small goals that are easy to reach and not just healthy, but also reward your brain with positive reinforcement. And what about exercising? With gyms closed and exercise classes canceled, the pandemic really set us up for a more sedentary lifestyle for many of us, That was our only saving grace. Actually, one study using smartphone data showed that the number of steps taken by health tracker users dropped significantly as soon as the pandemic hit. They found that people were more likely to binge watch television than to exercise. But with more people getting their COVID shots every day and winter pretty comfortably behind us, there should be more chances for you to get out and get active. Even just a 20 to 30 minute walk every day can have a huge impact on your health, on your overall health. So if your nearest gym is still working on limited capacity, or you just don't feel comfortable going back to the gym just yet, because I know some of you still are a little paranoid to get out there, and I totally understand that. I'm right there with you. I go to the gym, but I'm still super cautious. I'll be the one at the in the locker room washing my hands for 20 minutes just to make sure. So I feel you, but you should still get up and get active. Go slow and take measurable steps. Like if you go out after a year at home and try to run 4 miles right away, you're gonna have a terrible experience, and you're not gonna want to do it ever again. I'm just saying. So instead, again, focus on those walks during your lunch break or after dinner or something. Maybe even some short runs that can build up to longer runs over time. Again, start slow and build up to that championship material. You've got this. I believe in you. And as we adjust to our changing environment as the, pandemic slowly fades away into history, it's important to remember how much our lives have been changed in this last year. Change is hard, and nothing about transitioning back to whatever the new normal is will be easy. We humans, we don't like change, that's all there is to it. And all of the changes the past year and a half or so, like all them changes, they were hard on all of us and simply gave us all the, anxiety moments, if you will, And yet, while it felt shitty at times, now it's feeling almost comfortable, like that initial adjustment of having to stay home for a lot of us, that was crap. It felt like, again, it was shitty, I don't know. But now it's starting to feel comfortable, we've adjusted, and we're kind of liking it, staying home, staying sedentary. It's what we're now used to, it's not being active. We're used to that, it's the new normal, as you may have heard others calling it. And at this point, it's understandable that you'd feel anxiety about heading back to the gym. Like, that first time can really be hard and scary, like, for sure. Like, I know my first, when I first went back, I've been going back for maybe about a month and a half or so, 2 months, I don't know, quite some time actually. But I'm always like tiptoeing. I'm looking around like, what is everybody doing? How many people are here? Like, am I gonna run out the door screaming because like somebody sneezed or something? I don't know. But we can learn from everything we've been through, because if this last year has taught us anything, it's that we can do really hard things. And even if we don't like change, we're highly adaptable. This experience can be helpful for making these new changes, just like we didn't like the changes from being active to not being active, this reverse change of going from not active to active, we're adjustable. We're humans. We don't like change, but we are adaptable and we can make this change. After everything that we've all been through with the pandemic and its challenges, like starting a new health routine or even returning to an old one isn't that big of a deal. The big thing to remember is that there will be ups, there will be downs, and we have to recognize that anytime we're trying to make positive change, it's rarely a clear and straight path. Hardly ever, whether it's diet, exercise, or managing stress, like there will always be a step back along the way. Like there will always be that point where you might hit a roadblock or you have to take a step down or a step back. And it's important to remember to keep your focus, keep that gaze like on the long term, not just today, not just on what you're doing today, but where you're going in the long run. Like, where are you headed? Like, what is your ultimate goal? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, where do you picture yourself in 5 years? What's that? That's like the famous interview question. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Mr. Rodriguez? Anyway, so the more you know, the better you will be. Remember that. And so with all that said and done, let's switch gears and move on to our second segment with Mighty Man. Yeah, I got a little worked up in that last segment, guys. But in this week's installment of Mighty Man, we're talking about doing these 9 exercises at home for better range of motion. Now, we all need better range of motion, if you ask me. I mean, if you don't have any aches and pains, like, I want you to drop it in the comment. Like, say, hey, Isai, I don't have any aches or pains. Like, my neck is never stiff. I've never, like if that's you, I want to know your secret. Drop it in the comments right now. And because this topic is a great complementary topic for what we were just talking about in our healthy conversation segment. I mean, we were just talking about how this pandemic has flipped our lives upside down, especially when it comes to our physical activity, or, better said, lack thereof. Like with less movement due to the pandemic, your mobility is most likely taking a hit. Not just your health, as we were talking about in Healthy Conversations, but your mobility as well. It might be leaving you feeling all stiff and achy and even in pain as you go through your day-to-day activities. It also affects your at-home workouts. So for example, if you don't have good hip mobility, let's say, when doing things like squats and lunges, then your body will compensate by tugging on your lower back, your knees, and maybe even your ankles, like which can ultimately cause injury and more pain. Like that's not what we're after, guys, right? I mean, regularly focusing on exercises for better range of motion allows for your joints to move more freely, it allows them to move more smoothly, and through its full range of motion with total control and without any compensation, like no, what's the word they say? Restrictions, without any restrictions. And so I've got some really great beginner-friendly exercises that are a great place for you to start with improving your mobility from head to toe. I've incorporated many of these same exercises throughout my day for, stability and flexibility and even mobility. I highly suggest you do the same, but as usual, I'm just delivering the message. What you do with that information is up to you, as long as you take my suggestion and start adding some of these to your daily routine. Anyway, just having a little fun. And so, we're just going to get right into it today. The first little exercise that I have here is called the rainbow neck stretch. So, there are so many different reasons why your neck might stiffen up. Could be your posture, an old injury, the chair that you're sitting in, or the fact that you're always holding a newborn infant in one arm while sending out business emails and logging into your daily Zoom meetings. Or is that just me? I don't know. Either way, it's really easy for your neck to get stiff during your day, and this exercise, this rainbow neck stretch, is a great way to improve the mobility in your neck. So basically, all you do is you start in a standing position, right? With your feet hip width apart and knees slightly bent. You want to keep your knees kind of, as they say, supple, slightly bent. And then with your arms by your sides, make a strong fist with your hands and engage your core. Then you're going to want to pull your chin down toward your chest and imagine that you're squeezing a tennis ball between your chin and your chest. Now, without moving your shoulders, your hips, or your ribs, or anything like that, like you want to keep rather still, the only thing that's going to be moving here is your neck, really, So again, without moving anything, look at your right pocket, keeping your chin to your right shoulder, so that you want that to be a nice smooth motion. Then lift your head so that you're looking at the ceiling slowly. This is just not like a quick movement. We're loosening things up. You want to take it nice and easy. And as you're lifting your head, imagine you're drawing a rainbow as you bring your eyes and your gaze to your left pocket. So you're going from your right pocket, you're looking at your right, then you slowly bring your gaze up. You look up towards the ceiling as if you're drawing a rainbow with your eyes, and then bring your eyes down and look at your left pocket. Easy peasy. Once you do all that, and you bring your chin back to your chest and repeat on the other side. That's it. Simple to do, yet really effective at loosening your neck muscles a little so that you get a nice little release in the back of your neck. They should actually call this the social media neck tension release or something like that, because it literally releases the tension in the back of your neck that's generally caused from, hours spent looking at social media on your phone. I caught you out there. You're probably doing it right now. Anyway, the second exercise on this list is a side neck stretch. Now, I found this neck stretch while doing one of my yoga workouts. It's also been shown to me by several physical therapists, like different therapists that I've worked with in the past. And I use this one a lot because it simply works, period. It's a great little, it's another awesome little way to improve mobility in your neck area. And so since I have a lot of tension in my neck from like the different work that I do all day, this works tremendously well to loosen all that up. So what you do is you start in a comfortable seated position. So being seated already makes it simple, because if you're like me, then you're probably sitting 90% of the day anyway. So again, while you're seated, take your right hand and bring it right above your left ear, and then gently draw your right ear down toward your right shoulder and press down gently with your right hand. Remember that you're pressing from left to right. So if you can imagine that you're reaching with your right hand over your head, and basically your fingertips will be just above your left ear, and then you slowly press your head down so that your right ear comes down to meet your right shoulder. And the key here is not to fight it. Relax, like chill out. Loosen up. Don't stiffen up when you're doing these movements. Now once you do that and your right ear is down to your right shoulder, then you release and you bring your head back to neutral. And now once you have your ear pressed down gently to your right shoulder, now what you're going to do is you're going to take your left hand and you're just going to reach it away from your body. So again, if you can picture this, you have your right hand on the left side of your head, pressing your head down to the right side of your right ear to your right shoulder, and then your left hand is simply reaching straight away from your body. And now what you do is you carefully draw your chin down toward your chest, and then take that same route back to the right side. Release your head back up to center, and then repeat on the left side with your left hand. This little exercise gives the sides of your neck a nice little a really good release. And it kind of complements that last exercise where you're looking down and then you're kind of doing that little rainbow movement to the other side. And then you hit that kind of hits like front and back almost. And then this one, the side neck stretch, hits the sides of your neck. Really good, really effective, good release of tension in your neck. And the third thing that we have is a 4-point shoulder exercise. So this is a great one because a lot of times we don't realize that stiff shoulder muscles can lead to pain in your neck. So stretching and relieving soreness in your shoulders can easily release tension in your neck. And now for this exercise, it's super simple. Like all of these exercises are super simple, but these last 7 or so are even easier. So what you want to do for this exercise is you start by extending your arms in front of your body with your hands clenched in fists. So both arms out, and you're just holding them out with your 2 fists clenched tight. While keeping your arms in that position, pull your shoulders back, then down, then forward, and then up. So you're basically making like a circular motion, but in 4 distinct set points. So almost like, I guess the circular motion is kind of a little misleading. Probably like, I don't know, what would you call a square motion? Quadrilateral? I don't know. But again, arms out, fists clenched, shoulders back, then down, then forward, and then up. And then you just repeat this for 30 seconds and you're good. Like this will release some tension in your shoulders. And the fourth little thing that we have here is a wrist stretch. We all spend a lot of time on the computer these days, especially if you're still working from home. And so this really gets to your wrists. They start to tense up, and it can cause other parts of your arm to hurt as well. So this stretch kind of loosens all that up and releases that tension in your forearms and your wrists and stuff. For this stretch, you start by coming down on your knees and placing your palms on the floor with your fingertips pointed out. Now you'll want your shoulders to be directly over your wrists. That'll give you a nice starting position right there. And then what you do is you bring your weight forward until you feel a little stretch throughout the back of your forearms, and then slowly move back and forth for 10 reps. Like you're literally just slowly and easily just going until you feel a little stretch, a little release, and then back and forth. Do that 10 times and you're good. Next, you position yourself so that the backs of your hands are on the mat with your palms up. And then keeping a straight arm, slowly pull your weight back for a little stretch throughout the top part of your arms, and then you move that back and forth. So again, again, the first part of the exercise is with your palms on the ground and you're kind of moving back and forth to stretch your forearms. And then you kind of flip that and you flip your palms to be facing up. And then you're sitting, I'm not going to say sitting on them, but you're, instead of palms down, they're palms up. And then again, you want to move back and forth, 10 reps, loosen up. You'll feel the stretch for sure. I love this one. It's super simple. Yeah, it's such a great stretch for the wrists and the forearms, especially if you have like carpal tunnel, if you have anything like that in your wrists and stuff like that. Like this little exercise, great exercise to loosen that tension up. The fifth little exercise is the bottom up squat. Now, this is one of the best exercises for range of motion because it loosens up your lower body and improves shoulder mobility at the same time. So that's a win-win right there. It's a best bang for your buck if you ask me. So for this one, start with your feet more than hip distance apart. So I guess start at hip distance apart and then maybe take like an additional inch in each direction. Just give that a little extra distance. Then put your arms straight up in the air. Simple. Now reach for your toes and bend your knees into a squat. And then while you're down in the squat, you'll want to pause for a second or two and then reach your arms as you lift yourself back up to standing. I love that one. Again, great because it loosens your lower body and gives a nice stretch in your shoulders too. Love it, love it, love it. And this one you can do, I generally do 10 to 20 depending on how I'm feeling, how tight I feel. Like a lot of these exercises, you just kind of, I'll give you more or less a guideline, like 10 reps here or 30 seconds of that, but you kind of, depending on how tight and stiff you're feeling or how much pain you feel, like you adjust this to your body, like how you feel. Like nobody knows your body better than you. You know what I mean? So take what I'm telling you as almost like a guideline, like these are the exercises, you run through them until you feel comfortable. If that's 10 reps, if that's 20, 30, 20 seconds, whatever that is, make it work for you. And moving along here is number 6. The sixth item is threading the needle or thread the needle. Now this exercise, I believe, is from Pilates. I don't know. It's like it originates from like the Pilates field, I guess. But it's great for opening up the upper body, and it's also really simple to do. So you start in a very simple tabletop position. Then you sweep your right hand up toward the ceiling and open up your chest. Easy peasy, right? So in that position, you take an inhale and then you exhale. And then as you're exhaling, you bring your arm down and you thread your arm underneath your body into a twist. Repeat a few times, then hold in the twist for a few breaths. Again, reach up, open up, hand to the ceiling, then you breathe out and you bring the arm down and through the bottom, underneath your body. And you get a nice little twist. What I like to do, I usually rest my twisting shoulder, I guess, whichever one that I just threaded underneath. I'll rest that shoulder. I'll try and get it down to the floor. Like, oh, that is a great little twist right there. But you repeat a few times and then hold it in the twist for a few breaths. And then that releases the tension all in that twisting shoulder, as I call it. Now, you reset this by bringing your right arm back to the floor. So you're back in that tabletop position. And then you just repeat with your left arm, Again, this one is one of my personal favorites because it really hits that part of your shoulder that's not really your shoulder. I forget the name of the muscles that it hits, but it basically hits those outer shoulder joint muscles. That's a real problem area for me personally. And so this stretch really hits that spot beautifully. And I'll catch myself sinking into it for more than just a few seconds. Like I'll take my few breaths, but then I'll catch myself like, oh, that feels good, and I'll kind of hold it a little longer, but give it a shot, man. It's really good. It's really good. Moving along, the 7th exercise is the glute bridge. Gotta love the glute bridges. They're great for opening up the hips and in improving spinal mobility. They also increase your core and glute strength, obviously. And so for this one, simple. Start by lying on a mat with your legs bent. Your knees should be directly above your ankles. And then you just press your lower back into the mat and then lift it up off the mat. The key here is to keep your core engaged at all times. Once you reach the top, lower right back down. Wash, rinse, repeat. Do that 30 times or so to get the back nice and loosened up, and you're good to go. You get, you get that release of tension in your back. It improves your spinal mobility, opens up your hips, you know? These are all problem areas for me, you know? So that's why I suggest these. I know a lot of yous out there kind of suffer from the same as I do. You know, we're all in the same boat, as I mentioned earlier. But so yeah, like do that 30 times or so, and it'll loosen up your back, and you'll be feeling good. Trust me. So moving along, the 8th little exercise here is called a tiptoe walk. Now, the tiptoe walk is one of the easiest ways to improve your foot and ankle mobility. It provides ankle stability, toe flexion, and it works to warm up your arches. And there's nothing to it. Literally, I mean, there's really nothing to it. You start off by standing up high on your tiptoes like you're walking in high heels. I know, guys, this is not something you're used to, I know, but give it a try. Get up on your toes and then walk back and forth on your mat a few times if you have one, you know. Again, this will help stabilize your ankles. It helps loosen up your toes, and it works good to release tension in your foot arches. And while we're working on our feet, the 9th exercise is called a heel walk. Now, this is kind of the exact opposite of what we were just talking with the tiptoe walk. So now that you have your toes covered, like it's time to focus on your heels. Like you have 2 major portions of your feet, and you know, whether or not you're on your feet all day, it's a good idea to keep them nice and loose, you know. And aside from being great for foot mobility, this heel walk also stretches out your calves and your Achilles. And you'll be surprised how much tension that you carry in those 2 areas. So for this exercise, you want to start by standing with your weight on your heels. You know, when you do this, your hips will naturally press back a little, and that's okay. That's perfect. That's what we're looking for, actually. And then you simply walk back and forth on your mat. It's basically the opposite of that last movement, the tiptoe walk, where you're literally walking on your tiptoes. Like that here, you'll be walking on your heels, you know. And again, this loosens up your arches, your heels, your works on your foot mobility, and stretches out your calves and Achilles. And there you have it, fellas. By regularly focusing on exercises for better range of motion, your joints will be able to move smoother and more naturally through its full range of motion. You'll reduce pain and stiffness in your joints, which will then help you feel younger overall. And that's what we're going for here, you know? We're all trying to reverse the hands of time, and so that we can live longer, feel better, be more active, and live and enjoy a better life. And so, with all that said and done, that's it, you guys. That's my show for today. I hope you found some valuable information here. And if nothing else, I hope I've entertained you for a few minutes and was able to bring a little manly sunshine to your day. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to me. It's very much appreciated. On next week's episode, we'll be discussing the question, are you making one of these 9 mistakes that make hand sanitizer less likely to kill the COVID virus? So fellas, you definitely do not want to miss out on that. And if you love what you heard in today's episode and want more actionable topics just like these, then you need to join the conversation with me and the rest of the community by heading on over to podcast.daspination.com/VIP to get on the VIP Insiders community, where I share exclusive, never before seen, raw behind the scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger and younger each and every day. That's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now. And leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out. honestly, one place where your vote truly matters. Until our next chat, take care now. Bye.